Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Thursday, the 4th of June, comes to you from London. And we start by we're looking at the energy mix here, but we'll take a look at the macro first. We can see most energy products down today, crude down slightly. So we start by just looking at the macro. US dollar still just heading lower. So we're remembering this is my long-term, weekly, medium-term daily, and short-term 60-minute, and the same on the point of view. There's my long-term, my medium-term, and my short-term chart. So just gives me an overall view as I go through the chart. So we see here the dollar is just holding on to its long-term bullish position, but turned bearish short-term. Maybe we'll see a kick up here, but we do have downside targets. So dollar is just looking weak at the moment. If we look at the euro dollar, sitting at 112 this morning, so euro has had this resurgence against the dollar, not enough to take the euro long-term bullish, and we still do have some very big downside targets. So the long-term picture for the dollar is still bullish and bearish the euro. Looking at the yen, the yen. Dollar yen is really, see here the yen is stronger here, so 109 to the dollar, so we're seeing stronger there. And if we look at sterling, we're sitting at 125.10, just weakening a little bit there, but holding its bearish long term, but bullish in the short term. Looking at euro sterling, we're sitting at 111 as well. So here we're just seeing sterling falling against the euro, still looking weak. And we do have downside targets, but a bit of a mixed picture there at the moment. And sterling Swiss sitting at 120, also just coming off the top there. And if we look at the Aussie dollar sitting at 181, this is a sign of the risk-on trade, really. We're seeing the dollar strength there against sterling really starting to show through. Bitcoin sitting at $9,600, still looking pretty good on the long and medium-term charts. Short-term, there's been quite a lot of volatility. We saw a fall off there on Tuesday. US stock markets, the S&P 500 index was up last night, up 1.3%. Still a long way from the top, but quite a strong recovery here, and looking bullish on those medium and short-term charts. Of course, a lot of news to digest with the turmoil that we're seeing from coronavirus, China trade wars, and also the Hong Kong situation in China, and of course some social unrest in the US. But the market seems to be taking this in its stride. The Nasdaq 100 hitting yesterday, just touching the previous high that we saw back in February. So that's looking really strong, driven by the FAANG stocks, and we'll take a look at those shortly. And the Dow was up 2%, so really strong rise there. Russell up 4.4%. We're seeing the futures in the US down 0.3% this morning, and the Nasdaq is down 0.1%. So we expect the market to open flat to slightly lower. UK markets down just about 0.2%, and if we look at the mid caps in the UK, up slightly. The DAX in Germany down 1/3%. Really hitting cloud resistance here on that long-term chart, but similar to the US, looking more bullish on the medium and short-term charts. So really quite key. Of course, we do need to break to new highs before we can say the market would really start to run again, but the recovery has been very sharp. The CAC 40 in Paris down 0.3% as well. Tokyo is up 0.3%, and the Hang Seng, shrugging off the situation in Hong Kong, is up very slightly as well. The Shanghai composite market is down in China. Chinese stocks still in a downtrend, pretty worrying. Lots of big downside targets here. So Chinese stocks is still a long-term worry for the market. And India has been a real casualty of the coronavirus. You can see here the recovery on the Indian stock market, not as strong, not through yet to bullish on that medium term. And the Aussie market actually up 0.8% overnight, looking quite strong there and just starting to come into bullish territory as well. We'll take a look at Brent, crude and energy products shortly. Just a quick look at gold. We see here gold is actually just in bearish mode on that short term, just struggling to break above that 1764 level, but the chart is still really one of the most bullish looking charts on the long term. And silver down slightly this morning, and not making new highs the way gold has. So just the industrial component there effect. Just looking at US 10-year yields, we see here we're just teetering along the bottom on 10 years, so we are seeing a bit of strength creeping in on that short-term chart. And then if we look at German bond prices just really in this long-term sideways, just couldn't break that 180 level on the Bund, and we are just bearish on that short and medium-term chart. Taking a look at the tech stocks driving the market, remembering that Apple, Amazon, and Microsoft are a third of the weighting in the Nasdaq 100. So you only really need to watch these three stocks. Apple not through resistance yet, just really nudging resistance. FAANG stocks overall making new highs, but Apple is just struggling to make new highs at the moment, but looking pretty bullish to be back where we were. And if we look at Amazon, of course, Amazon has been a real beneficiary of the virus and actually has made new highs. Short term, we're not where we were a couple of weeks ago, but we are still on those medium and long-term charts pretty bullish. And Microsoft has seen a strong recovery as well, just not quite yet making new highs. The moment we see Apple and Microsoft making new highs, that is going to start telling us something about the market. Taking a look at the energy mix, we've got Brent crude. It's sitting this morning at about 39.50. Couldn't hold on to the $40 level yesterday, so we did fall through. We've got downside targets here, 38.70, 38.80. 37 not yet activated, and we've got these 60-minute targets as well not yet activated. A big upside target here is activated on that recovery, but at the moment the short term is looking bearish. $40 does just look like strong resistance. Looking at WTI, of course, we've got the situation with WTI. We had that negative spike. It really has messed the chart up, but we do have downside targets here as well on that short-term 1-minute chart. US nat gas, I've been saying for some time that US nat gas looks like it's turning a corner. We've got this basing pattern here on the daily chart. We're in bullish mode on the short-term chart. We've got some quite good upside targets, and on the 1-minute chart, if you're trading natty, then the 184, 188 levels are starting to look quite convincing. Coal had a big jump earlier in the week. We really just jumped a few dollars, but we've just pulled back quite strongly now. So we have got this upside target. Coal might have bottomed. We're seeing this reaction on quite a lot of different products. And if we look at emissions, we're seeing here emissions are actually just flattening. Couldn't quite break this 2235, 2240 level. That's pretty important. We've got some short-term downside targets on the 1-minute chart. We have got a target to 21 euros on emissions that's not yet activated, and we're not through the cloud yet. So it's hitting some resistance, but we are just holding on to that short-term bullish trend. MBP, UK gas down 3% this morning, so we have seen some quite big falls there. And if we look at TTF, also we're seeing TTF lower as well. In fact, I talked about TTF yesterday, and we had this trend that just looks like it's breaking. We've got the level here, 550 is really key for TTF. If we can break that level, we've got a downside target to 435, upside on the 1-minute to 550, which would take us back, of course, to the resistance level. Very hard to read the targets at the moment. We need to break this range before we can really say. Looking at TTF winter gas, we see here no real signs of recovery here. This is still in pretty much a downtrend, nudging new lows, so not looking so good for that contract. German power is sitting at 37.60 this morning. The range here is 36.25 to 38.10. That's the level to watch on German power. If we look at the downside targets, 37.30 on the 1-minute. The OTC targets will give you a clearer picture if you've got the full market, of course. And looking at French power, we see here French power is actually looking quite good for recovery, unlike German power, so looking pretty good there as well. And looking at the Cal for Nordic power, also looking more bullish on that short term, not yet through on the long-term chart, but we do have some upside targets. And Czech power looking a bit weaker this morning. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.